All right, so this is week 3, day 3, and we've been reading about a photographer who does like some underwater things, and he talks about how adventurous his job was, or is. I don't know if he still has it or not. I'm hoping he does. So here we go. Ice investigator. So this is a different person. This person's name is Michelle Copes. I would not like the guy who dives. I would not like his job, and I'm not going to lie. The idea of being high up and suspended by a rope over a crevasse that I could die on, I'm not really interested either. So, ice investigator. But hey, if that interests you, this might be a job that you want. A towering cliff of ice hangs above Michelle Copes. She paddles along in a kayak that, in comparison to the cliff, looks almost like a toy. Suddenly, she hears a loud crack. A huge piece of ice breaks away from the cliff and splashes into the cold lake, creating waves. The waves rock her kayak, tossing it back and forth. Copes keeps paddling, now with a little more energy. After all, this immense display of moving ice is what she has come to see. Copes is a glaciologist, a scientist who studies glaciers. Glaciers are huge masses of ice that flow like rivers, but at an extremely slow rate. Copes and her partners will pull their kayaks onto a rocky shore. They stand at the front of Chile's Tyndall Glacier, near where the glacier flows into the lake. This part of a glacier is called the terminus. Here, huge pieces of ice can calve or break off into the water at any time. So that's an interesting word. Calve means for ice to break off. Copes checks her backpack. It overflows with equipment. Some instruments are for measuring changes in the ice. Another important tool is her camera, which will allow her to document visible changes in the glacier. Staring up at the wall of ice, Copes clips herself to her climbing harness. A coil of rope rests across one shoulder, and in her hand she carries an ice axe. With a nod of her team, they begin to climb up the giant glacier. As a glacier flows, the bottom and sides drag more slowly than the middle, creating cracks in the ice. Now, some cracks, called crevasses, can be deep and dangerous. On top of a glacier, these cracks often become hidden under a thin crust of fallen snow. In many places, the snow might be only a few centimeters thick and can't support the weight of a person. For an explorer like Michelle Copes, a crevasse can be deadly. I don't think just for an explorer. I think for anybody. What about animals? There are going to be dead animals are in a crevasse. Respecting the crevasse. Copes once saw the danger of the crevasse up close. She and her team were in a helicopter, ready to hop out onto the ice. Her partner leaned out of the helicopter and poked the snow with a pole. It seemed firm enough, so he jumped out. Oh, good Lord. Oh, my stars. Suddenly, the snow gave way, and only the safety rope held by Copes held him from plunging to the bottom of a deep crevasse. Hold on, man. That's insane. Copes learned an important lesson about glacier safety that day. I would hope she knew that. Obviously she did, because she had him tethered to a rope. On today's hike, she and her team rope themselves together. Then, if someone slips as they ascend the ice wall or accidentally falls into the crevasse, once they reach the top, the rest of them can pull the person to safety. They rope themselves together? Yeah, I don't know about that. Oops. Someone wasn't very bright and they do something dumb? Hopefully you're with people that you trust. I'm assuming that you are. This isn't the first time Copes has been to Tyndall Glacier. She made this trip several years ago, too. At that time, she took photographs, measured the height of the glacier's surface, and checked the positions of its terminus. Today, it seems clear to her that there is less ice, and as she climbs, she snaps several shots and takes many measurements. When she studies her 2 sets of data, she will have proof that Tyndall Glacier is shrinking, an important finding which she will share with other scientists hoping to understand climate change. After a full day of climbing, Copes and her team finally reach the top of the glacier. Copes grins as she beholds the magnificent view. Beneath her, she hears the glacier groaning, as if it's trying to speak to her. In a way, it's speaking to her, and through her photographs and measurements, she's listening closely to what it has to say. Okay, this article, there are so many things. There's tons of questions that I have, and there's lots of facts. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I have my science journal next to me. I'm just going to go ahead and start on my next page. I have not, I should say, I don't usually write on the back, but I have in the past. I'm not going to today because I'm writing with a pen and I don't want it to punch through. So today I'm going to do week 3, day 3, science. Sorry, paper's sideways. And I'm going to put her name at the top, which is right up here, so I'll make sure I spell it right, even though I might not be able to say it right. Michelle Copes. I'll have to look it up. Michelle Copes. That's just the title for this section, Ice Investigator. So I'm going to do a couple words. I'm going to talk about how a glaciologist is a scientist. So I'm going to do one definition. And I'm going to put a D for definition because I think it's really important sometimes when I'm building my vocabulary. I've never heard of a glaciologist before. Blah. So I'm going to write it down as a job I would never want to have. Oh, remember that time Jim fell down the crevasse and we were all like pulling him up? And how funny is that? No, not even a thing. Who studies glaciers? I really don't understand why she would actually go all the way to measure it, because you can measure stuff from like space and helicopters. I'm not saying that she shouldn't have like an adventure or whatever, but I feel like if someone asked me if they could have money for that, I'd be like, let me think. No, that's a lot of money. I can only imagine how much they have to pay her to do that. That's just my thought. Maybe I'm wrong. She talks about they stand at the foot of Chile's Tyndall Glacier, near the glacier that flows into a lake. A crevasse. I'm going to put what that is because a crevasse, it says some cracks called crevasses can be deep and dangerous. So number 2, another definition, just because I think, again, those are words that I like to learn, even though crevasse. These are large cracks in the ice. Ice/glacier. And they can be dangerous. Okay, so I have a definition of glaciologist in the crevasses, And then I'm going to make a connection. Actually, I'm going to ask a question. I wonder if she ever gets worried. I'm going to say scared. Doing her job. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. My job is not that exciting. So, I mean, in the sense of like, oh, I went to work today and a whole giant wall of ice tried to kill me. I don't have problems like that. And it said right here, like the part where he jumped out of the helicopter, poked the snow, and then he fell through the ice, plunging to the bottom of a deep crevasse. Or she had a rope and that kept him from plunging to the bottom of a deep crevasse. I mean, honestly, I don't ever have to worry about that. Like, oh, safety, no. So I wonder if she ever gets scared doing her job? Question mark. 4. And then I'm going to put a fact. It says, Copes uses photos and measurements of the glaciers to tell others about the changes. They want to better understand climate change. Okay, 5. Oops, I forgot my period. My very last thing is a connection. I would never, ever want a job like this. I wonder how she got into it. I wonder if she just lived in a place where there were glaciers. I should put a question mark there. I just wonder, because it's like there's no way in a million years you could get me to do that. And I can't imagine when I was in high school going to a job fair where they're like, hey, would you like to climb glaciers? And I'd be like, oh yeah, I love that. No, I can't imagine that. All right, so you guys are done with your science. That means if you followed along and gone in order, you should be done with your videos for day 3. Have a great night.